this man of God stares down this evil king and says, no more rain. Now, if I were telling the story, it would continue like this. All right, if this was my story, it would go like this. Ahab would yell to his guards, seize him! But Elijah would pull out a sword. This is if I were telling the story, okay? And the guards would jump out, and there would just be this serious fight going, okay? This is my story. Where one by one, Elijah would be taking out guys, all right? That's, again, if it were my story, okay? But God doesn't tell the story like that. It's His story. He tells it a little different. That might say something about me. Say something strange about me. I don't know. Don't look too much into it. Maybe I like violence. I don't know. But again, this is God's story. It's not my story. And God is more concerned with building men and women of God than telling a good story. Let me put it this way. If you and I were writing our own story, there would be a lot of G-rated problems in our story. You know? Somebody looked at me bad. Oh, that's too bad. But I can live again. You know? I mean, we really wouldn't take, if we were writing our own story, we wouldn't bring no drama into our lives. In fact, if it were our story, we would be the hero of our story every time. I mean, some of you tell stories all the time, and you're the hero of your story all the time, you know? Even when you're not the hero, you know? Because if we were writing a story, we would mess it all up. We would say it our way, and what's weird is that God writes a story that is best for us. I mean, for some of us, we would write this comfort story. Well, maybe God is trying to write a story of adventure for you, to step out and do something different, something crazy. In fact, what are the things you're dealing with right now? That thing that you're trying to push away and not face is God at work right now. What if? What if? So we don't get a fight scene here. Sorry. What we do get is God taking Elijah away to a season of hiding. Not real exciting. Just hiding, that's it. And we're going to watch as God shapes this man in a very deep season of preparation. Almost as if God is saying, there are things I need to do in you because there's so much I want to do through you.
Amen.
You know, and that is the adventure of the Christian life. Is that God takes us through drama to change us, to make us better, so that He can work through our lives. Let me show you how it works, okay? I noticed 3 seasons in this story. And if you're taking notes, God takes him through a season, number 1, of isolated pain. God takes him through a season of isolated pain, where he's alone. He's got no one to call out to. Look at this. This is verses 2 through 3. It says, the word of the Lord came to Elijah. Leave here, turn eastward, and hide in the Kerith ravine, east of the Jordan. Can you say Kerith ravine? Can I hear that? Kerith ravine?
Kerith ravine.
Awesome. The word Kerith is the Hebrew word which means to cut off or cut down. Cut off or cut down. It means to be cut off from the source or cut down like you would cut down a tree. It's like God is saying, I'm going to take you through a season of breaking. I'm going to cut you down. I'm going to humble you privately before I use you publicly. I remember growing up, we were involved in ministry at a young age, and I was involved in music, because we would write songs and stuff like that. And you'd always get these characters that would come out with their CD. Hey, this is my rap album. Check this out. And they would always say the same thing. We are going to revolutionize the industry. I would always hear that. Like, what are you talking about? For some reason, there's some people that just have all this pride. These young guys that really don't, they really don't know much. They got all this pride. They think they're going to change everybody, tell everybody how to do it right. I see this in ministry also. Out of Bible school, you always hear that. We're going to show the old people how to do it. because we do it right, they do it wrong. I mean, it's just this pride. And what's interesting is a lot of these guys aren't doing it as big as they thought they were. Because God takes people through a season of humbling. Because that attitude is not going to get you really far. It's not. God has to break you. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I was one of ththose guys. So I'm going to show those guys how to do it. Those old guys, I'm going to show it how it's done. And I went through some of the most difficult times of ministry that humbled me. And now I'm at the point where I respect these guys. Because I know what they've been through. And I can only imagine what they've been through. See, God has to humble us sometimes because there's things in us that desperately needs to change. I'm going to tell you a story, okay? Let me read the story to you. This is a great story because it's gross, it's sad, and it's funny, okay? 3 things that make it an awesome story. I apologize ahead of time if I offend anybody. This is a great story when the Fresno Bee is here, okay? Here we go. The little bird was flying south for the winter. He got off to a late start. So he got caught in a snowstorm. The snow and sleet was so fierce that he got on his little wings and he started to freeze. And he came in for a crash landing. He tried to stretch out his little wings, but he couldn't. He was convinced that he was going to die. And he cried out, "This is the worst thing ever. I am going to freeze to death." All of a sudden, a cow came along, sit on top of the little bird, and dumped on him. That's the gross part, just in case you were wondering. Okay? The little bird said, "I thought it was bad before, but now I'm under this manure." All of a sudden, the warmth started to thaw his little body out. He was able to shake his little wings. And he began to say, "I think I'm going to live." And he was so excited, he started to chirp with joy. All of a sudden, a cat showed up, hearing the chirping. And ate the little bird. That's the sad part. 3 lessons from the story. Lesson number 1. Everyone who drops manure on you is not your enemy. Okay? I mean, come on, let's be honest. Sometimes someone's going to take you through something that is good for you. Like God. There are times God's going to take you through something that is actually good for you. And it may not feel too good at the outset, but it's still some good stuff, right? Lesson number 2. Ready? Here we go. Everyone who digs you out is not necessarily your friend. This is deep stuff. Even though it isn't, it still is. This is deep stuff. Because there are some parents that rescue their children out of trouble when they shouldn't. You know? It's like, man, you're in the middle of this for a reason. You need to stay there. God is dealing with you. What right do I have to step in and pull you out of what God is doing in your life?
That's right.
Lesson number 3. When you're in manure, keep your big mouth shut. That's a great story. I've been waiting for that one. When I heard it, I'm like, I need the perfect opportunity. And I found it. Right? Another great illustration is the silversmith. The silversmith begins to, if you ever see the process, it's awesome. Where he begins to heat up well, it's kind of a crude silver at the point. It's not even purified yet. But he heats it up. It's really interesting. He heats it up. He gets it as hot as possible. And he always looks at it to see, and then he skims a little bit off the top. And what he's skimming off the top is the impurities that are raising up because of the heating process. And then he looks into it. And then he makes it hotter. Skims off the top again and looks at it. Heats it up even hotter and then skims off the top and then looks into it. And you might wonder why he's looking into it. There's a reason why. Because if he can see his reflection in the silver, then he knows that it's pure. And that's exactly what God is doing. God it takes us through a process of turning up the heat